so nice of you. You guys, this is Comic Spot. I'm Linda Marcus Smith, and I'm an
Right.
Army veteran, right?
Are you really?
I am, and your father was too. We have that in
And,
common, Bobby.
and so am I.
You're an Army veteran?
I'm military. I took my basic training, Fort Dix, New Jersey, 1964.
No way.
And I had the extreme pleasure in 1967.
Mm-hmm.
I went over to Vietnam, and I entertained the troops for a month. And it was one of the greatest things that ever happened to me in my life. You know, just to be able to go and, you know, do a show for an hour, hour and a half, whatever it may be, to make those guys forget about what was going on over there.
Absolutely.
And I went all over. I went Pleiku, Wanke, Quyen Yan, Khantoum, Ban Me To It, Nha Trang, Phan Rang. I was all over the joint.
I'm so happy to know that you're also a veteran.
Oh,
and
yeah.
that you went to Vietnam. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That puts you at the top of my list of anybody.
Well, thank you ever so much. Thank you.
Thank you for your service, and thank you for risking your life to entertain our troops.
I'll tell you what, it wasn't a risk at all. It was just, you know, just a great pleasure for me. First of all, to be military, and then to go over and to entertain the troops. Matter of fact, when I went to play coup, there was one guy sitting in the front row who was in my company, Foxtrot, 2nd Training Regiment. His name was Al Navola, and I was not a platoon leader. What do you call it? Oh my God. Anyway, I look at him. He looks at me. He goes, "Yo, Bob." I went, "Yo, Al." He says, "Why don't you stay?" I said, No. I'm singing. I'm going home." And thank God he came back to, all of the guys back then called it the world. You know, he came back to America, and we got together. He came to one of my shows in New Jersey at the Count Basie Theater in Red Bank, New Jersey. And then after that, I invited him and his wife and a couple of friends back to the hotel. And we just, you know, rehashed all our good times of basic training that we had together.
My gosh. I didn't know I was going to cry, but when I did research on you, it didn't say a thing about you being military. And I am such a proud military veteran. And I do comedy on both sides of the coast for veterans and military.
Oh, that's wonderful. And that's absolutely wonderful.
So you started, I don't want to really do an interview. I want you to talk, but I do have one thing to say.
Mm-hmm.
You started out drumming and impersonating Clem Kadiddlehopper's second cousin once removed. I want you to do a Clem thingamajiggy.
Well, how that's, well, I used to do, and I still do, impersonations. And when I was on the Red Skelton Show, the producer, his name was Cecil Barker. And he said to me, "I understand you do one of Red's characters." So I said, "Yes, I do Clem Kadiddlehopper." And he said, "Could I hear it?" And I started doing. Now, Red was stage right with David Rose and the orchestra, and he was rehearsing a number, and he overheard me doing and he started talking back to me. Lo and behold, they wrote a character. I played Clem Kadiddlehopper's cousin, Zeke Kadiddlehopper. And I had the good fortune to do something like 12 shows with Mr. Skelton. And, I always called him Mr. Skelton. And he said, "Please," he said, "Do you want me to call you Mr. Rydell?" I said, "No, of course not, Mr. Skelton." He said, "Well, then just call me Red." And we became very, very dear friends, to the point where he invited me to his house in Palm Springs. And his wife said to me, "Bobby, I can count on one hand the number of people that Red has invited to his house."
It was very private.
Well, evidently so, but for some reason, you know, he lost his son, Richard, at a very early age.
That's right.
And yeah, you know, and I don't know, he kind of like took me under his wing and he treated me like a son. And I did something in the avenue of like 12 shows with him. And I remember he came to Atlantic City and I took my wife, my first wife, God rest her soul, Camille, and my two children, Robert and Jennifer, and of course, Red's on stage. And, you know, Red would always do, not only on his TV show, but his stage show, he would pantomime a lot of stuff.
Yes.
And one of the things that I loved, we used to do, an old man watching the American flag go by, you know, and how he joined the parade. You know, he dropped his cane, and I cried. And my son said to my wife, "What's Daddy crying about?" And my wife said, "You don't know how much that man means to your father." Yada, yada, yada. Backstage we go. And it's my wife, my two children, and me. And I looked at him and I said, "Red," I said, "you did it again." He said, "What was that, Bobby?" I said, "You made me cry." And he said, "Was I that bad?" Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I played his cousin, Zeke Little Hopper.
I have to say,
I was the only guest, from what I understand, to imitate one of Red's characters.
oh,
I was the only guest who ever imitated, whether it be any one of his characters. But
what was it like doing that right in front of him?
Well, like I said, the producer said, "Let me hear you do Clem Little Hopper," and I started, and then Red started talking back to me as Clem, and then they wrote a show. You know, they wrote a show where I became Clem's cousin Zeke Little Hopper.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So I heard the story about the fact that a young girl gave you 2 body parts and gave you a chance at life. God rest her soul.
Yes, yes.
Very touching.
Extremely touching. I was 2 weeks away from death. And my wife, my new wife, Linda, she was a nurse for 36 years in cardiology. And it was around, the July 4th weekend back in 2012. And my wife said, "If you're ever going to get a liver and a kidney, it's going to be around this time of the year." July the 4th, a lot of DUIs, a lot of hit and runs, so on and so forth. And as luck would have it, for me, I mean, God rest my donor's soul, she was only 21 years old. She was a girl by the name of Julia who lived in Reading, Pennsylvania, only 50 miles from Philadelphia. And I was waiting, you know, I'm waiting. And we get a call, my wife and I, we get a call from Jefferson Hospital. And they said, "Excuse me, get your ass over here." And I rushed over to the hospital. They gave me blood tests, this, that, the other thing. And within 3 hours, I was in the OR getting a new kidney and a new liver. And that was all because of Julia. And I expressed to the audience when I'm working how important it is to become an organ donor. And I say, the next time you apply for your new driver's license, as a favor to me, please become an organ donor.
My God.
because it truly is the gift of life. And I mean, this is now, it's going to be going on to 8 years now that I've had the transplant. It was July the 12th of 2010.
We need more donors, that's for
Excuse
sure.
me, 2012.
What makes what makes you such a great guy? Nobody has anything negative to say about you. Your reputation does precede you.
Well, thank you ever so much. I appreciate that. I don't know, and you're right. I do have a lot of respect out of all of the artists that I've come to know, you know, in the business. And I'm just I'm a nice guy. I don't cause no problems for anybody. I do what I have to do. I love what I'm doing. Unfortunately, right now, we're not doing anything. You know, I've had so far something like 19, 20 engagements canceled because of, you know, the coronavirus. So we're just waiting for this thing to either go away or come up with some kind of a cure where I can go back on stage and do what I absolutely love doing.
Yes.
But to answer your question, I think I'm just a nice guy, you know. I don't cause no problems for anybody.
And I know from I can read people, you know, I'm going to be 70 years old in March. I can read people, and I can tell you genuinely are in every moment and you really love people. Where's that
I
come
do.
from? I love that about you. Where's that come from?
I guess it's, first of all, it has to go back to my family. You know, I'm Italian. My real name is Robert Louis Rydell. And, you know, I grew up in South Philadelphia with my mom's parents, my grandmother and my grandfather, who came from the old country. They came from a place called Abruzzi in Italia. And I was born and raised with my mom and my dad and my grandparents. And there was a lot of love and a lot of warmth and a lot of respect in the family. And I learned that from not only my parents, but from my grandparents as well.
You don't think you're better than anybody with all you've accomplished.
No,
you've replied to me on Twitter way back in the day like I'm at your level or some crazy thing.
Yeah, I mean, no, I'm no better than anybody else. I love what I do. I enjoy what I do, and I'm good. I'm good at what I do.
Yes, you
You
are
know,
so great at what you do.
thank you very much.
And I really appreciate all you have sacrificed to entertain people. I understand the sacrifice that you have, you know, I heard about going home on Christmas Day only many times. So that's a sacrifice so we can enjoy you.
Excuse me, that's my dog Bella in the background. You know, and I remember there was a guy who was outside with his dog, and the dog started barking, and a policeman walked because the guy was reprimanding his dog, and the cop said to the guy, "Don't ever do that. That dog is trying to protect you. So you let him bark." And so Bella runs around the house, she barks, you know, and she's a beautiful dog. She's great. You know, to go
what
back
what kind of dog is Bella?
It's a mutt, all
okay.
kinds of, okay. She's we got her from Craigslist, and she's really, really a great dog. But, you know, I can remember years ago, I did Make Room for Daddy with Danny Thomas. And I was, let me see, at that time, I think 20, 21. And Mr. Thomas said to me, "I'd like you to be the teenage chairman for ALSAC, Aiding Leukemia-Stricken American Children." And I toured with Mr. Thomas for a year. I became the teenage, you know, for Aiding Leukemia-Stricken Children. And that was such a thrill. You know, what a pleasure to do something like that. You know, and to see, you know, and to this day, it just breaks my heart, you know, to see all of those 4-year-old, 3 years old, you know, trying to fight leukemia, some sort of cancer. And Mr. Thomas was the guy who he built that hospital, and everybody goes there and they're not charged 1 red cent.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that
the St. Jude Hospital?
Jude. Yes.
Yeah.
We grew up with those values and that information, and I would love the young people to find out about St. Jude and support it. It's been around forever, like us.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. For sure. Yeah.
So I wanted to have you on because you've been so nice to me, and I'm doing all these interviews of funny people. And I know you started out with drumming, which had to be funny in its own right, and impersonations.
Well, the drumming started, my father loved big bands. Now, I was 5 years old. He wanted to introduce me to big band music and to the American Songbook at 5 years old. So he said, "We're going to go see Benny Goodman." Now, I'm 5 years old. I don't know who the hell Benny Goodman is, but my dad wanted me to witness this kind of music at a very early age. So he took me. It was an afternoon performance. And I was enthralled, you know, the big band, 4 trumpets, 4 trombones, 5 saxophones, piano, bass, drums, guitar. And I said to my father, Daddy, this is great. I said, but there's one guy, I don't know his name, but he's playing drums. And I want to be him. I want to be that guy. And that guy was Gene Krupa, who played for Benny Goodman and one of the world's really, really great drummers. So it was all because of Benny Goodman and Gene Krupa that I started playing drums at like 5 years old. And I still play to this day.
And it was a sacrifice to get your drums and to get
Oh, you know
better
that
ones.
story?
Yes.
Yeah. My father worked for a place called the Electronite Carbon Company. Basically, he worked a punch press, and he lost his middle finger on his left hand. And he got a bonus. He got a $3,000 bonus, which was enormous money back then, you know. And I had a set of drums that he bought me from a pawn shop, and it was called Revere, and they were red crystal. Not a great set of drums, you know, but it was my very first set. And, you know, so my dad knew that I really enjoyed the instrument. I took lessons, you know, from a teacher by the name of San D'Amico in Philadelphia. He was my drum teacher. And when my father lost his finger, he took me to a place in Philadelphia, right in town, called 8th Street Music Sales. And it was a music store that had everything: trumpets, trombones, drums, guitars. And I saw this one drum set, and I said, wow, Daddy, I said, how about that drum set? And it was William F. Ludwig, WFL, and the set was Black Oyster Pearl. It was a gorgeous set of drums. And that was my drum set. And I think back then, I think I still have the receipt. It was something like $500 for the whole set: snare drum, bass drum, floor tom-tom, small tom-tom, you know. But what a great set of drums it was, you know. And years later in the business, I wish I still had those drums today. I don't. But, you know, back in 1963, 63, I was in London. And I was working with a girl by the name of Helen Shapiro, who was really a very fine singer in the UK, and to this day still is. And one night we're traveling on a bus. We're traveling through the UK. We're playing different theaters, and there was a car in front of us. And she hollered out to me. She says, "They're the Beatles." Now this is 1963. So I started looking around the bus for cockroaches. You know, I didn't know what the hell she was talking about. And the car stopped, the bus stopped, the 4 guys, the original 4 guys got on the bus. They knew me. And we shook their hands. Unfortunately, never took a picture.
Aww.
And to this day, I could kick myself in the rear view, because what a great, in the middle of the UK, 11 o'clock at night, and the 4 of them come on the bus. We talked for a little bit. Now I figured, you know, they went their way. And, you know, I said to myself, nice guys, you know, they're probably, you know, just a band gigging somewhere. They're going to go play a club date, maybe a wedding, you know, whatever. And then I'm home, 1964, and I'm watching Ed Sullivan. And he introduces the Beatles. And I said, oh my God, I met those guys. To make a long story short, Ringo Starr was playing the same set that my father bought for me: William F. Ludwig, Black Oyster Pearl. And I looked at him and I said, I had that set before you, man.
Oh my gosh. I have to tell you, when the Beatles came out, I was really mad. I've never gotten into the Beatles because they took the place of you and the other singers. That I couldn't make the transition.
Well, you're right. You know, for a while there, a lot of the disc jockeys across the country were just playing British music, you know. And after a few years, they kind of looked at one another and said, "Hey, we got to start playing American music again. Let's get back to the nitty gritty where it all began." And so it's like anything in the business. You have your peaks, your highs, your valleys, your lows, and you just roll with the punches. My last recording was back in 1964, and it was a song that I recorded in London. It was called "Forget Him," which was my third million seller, and that was it. That was my recording career. I signed with other labels. I signed with Capitol. I signed with Reprise, but nothing ever really happened. So my recording career went from 1959 to 1964, which is a pretty good run, and thank God I'm still doing what I love to do, singing and getting up on stage. Yeah.
I have to tell you, I met a guy at summer camp and he broke my heart. He spent time talking to me and he didn't even say goodbye. He never called me. And Forget Him, that song, got me through that.
Oh, really? That's great, man. Yeah, well, forget him if he doesn't love you. Forget him if he doesn't care. Don't let him tell you that he wants you. 'Cause he can't give you love which isn't there. Oh, little girl, he's never dreaming of it.
I'll be right back. I have to take a cold shower. So your life now, you have a wife named Linda.
Correct.
Your children are well raised. You have a dog that you got off Craigslist, which is better than finding a husband on the Craigslist.
Matter of fact, we had a pussycat, and unfortunately, we had to put his name was Tom, and we had to put Tom down. He got very, very sick, and I mean, he was about maybe 15, 16 years old, and he had a good life with us, So my wife, when we had to put him down, she loves animals, but she always had cats. So she said, we got to go out and get some cats. I said, some cats? And we went to a shelter right here where I live now in Bluebell. It was only about a mile from my house, and we picked up 2 cats. And now we had the dog and 2 cats. The one cat's name is Diana, and the other cat is Mandy. So one's a Barry Manilow song and the other one's a Paul Anka song. I said, why the hell couldn't we pick a Bobby Rydell? Couldn't we get a cat called Wild One? Or Volare? but they're great. This one cat, Diana, our other cat, Tom, he never jumped around or did anything. He was laid back. But this one, Diana, she gets on top of the kitchen countertop. She walks all over the place. It's adorable. It's really adorable. We love, Diana and Mandy.
I once had a beagle, and my beagle would always get into trouble. You know how beagles are?
Yes.
So I lived in New York and did comedy there. And I was walking the dog around, and New Yorkers are very, they ask you questions like, your dog bites, and I go, give me $5, I'll let you find out.
That reminds me of what was with Peter Sellers, Inspector Clouseau, and he's checking into a hotel, and he says to the agent, or the guy who's booking him into the hotel, and he sees this little dog, and he says to the guy, does your dog bite? And the guy shakes his head, no. So Peter Sellers goes over to pet the dog, and the dog bites him. So Peter Sellers looks at the check-in guy. He says, I thought you said your dog didn't bite. And the old man says, that's not my dog.
Oh my gosh. People would say to me, is that a service animal? And one day a lady said, is that a PTSD dog? These are what New Yorkers do. And I said, yes, he's a PTSD dog. He causes it.
That's funny. Oh, gee. Yeah.
It's funny how life goes on and you go through different phases in your life, right? What's your favorite phase of life?
My favorite phase of life I missed. because at 17 years old, I had my first hit record the summer of 1959. And what I missed was graduating, well, not grammar, but high school. I missed graduating with my class, and that would have been the class of 1960. And, I really didn't have, I didn't experience that, so that's one of the things that, I wish I could go back and possibly wait till I had graduated high school and then do what I do.
Yes.
So I do miss that. But I remember there was a priest. I went to a Catholic school, and the high school was called Bishop Newman. And
is it still around, Bobby?
Well, it's now, it used to be just guys. And my first wife, Camille, God rest her soul, she went to an all-girls school called St. Maria Goretti. And I went to all boys. It is now co-ed. It's now Newman Goretti. So it's guys and girls. So maybe I should go back.
I think they would gladly have a ceremony just for you.
I'll go back and start my freshman year all over again, because now it's guys and girls,
Yeah.
Yeah. And anyway, this priest, Father Pullini, he said, Bobby, would you come back and do a benefit for the school? And I said, absolutely, Father. And he said, how much would you want? I said, Father, I don't want anything. I don't want no money. What I do want is my high school class ring, graduation class of 1960, and my diploma. And they made it up. They made up a ring, class of 1960, and I got my diploma. Robert Louis Rydell,
Oh my gosh.
I know, yeah. So that meant more to me than, making any kind of money. I got my ring and I got my diploma.
Wow.
Yeah.
My high school in Portland, Oregon had me come back and do comedy and crown the king and queen of homecoming.
Oh, that's great. Nice.
It was fun.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Even when I was in school, like through my freshman, junior, and then halfway through my, freshman, sophomore, halfway through my junior year. That's when I left school, halfway through my junior year. But we used to have a band in school, and we used to play, we used to play in the auditorium, play for the guys, because there was no girls stand at Newman. And we just play tunes, rock tunes, whatever. And it was fun. It was a lot of fun,
Where did you learn to sing? Because of drumming and impersonation, and all of a sudden you're like a teen idol and you sing like amazingly from the start.
The only reason I'm in the business today is because of my father.
Yes.
And if I had any talent within me whatsoever, my father was the first one to see it. He used to bring me around to nightclubs when I was 7, 8 years old, and ask the club owner, can my son get up and sing and do a few impersonations? And I would go up. I'm 7 years old, and there's an adult crowd, and what the heck was this song I did? You know what? I was 7, 8 years old, and I sang a song called "I'm Going to Live Till I Die." And there was a piano player who wrote up the little arrangement for me. I'm gonna live till I die. I'm gonna die. I was singing this song at 7 years old, and then I did impersonations, and then people would applaud, and I would think to myself, "Wow! All I have to do is do this, and they do that. What a wonderful feel! What a wonderful feeling! So basically, all of those little clubs that I did in Philadelphia that my dad took me to was like my vaudeville.
Yeah.
It kind of prepared me for what was going to happen to me later on in life. It kind of really prepared me for the lights, the boards, and, being on stage. My grandmother had a house in Wildwood, New Jersey, and I would go to this hotel that was right up the street, and I'd go in and I'd just sing for the guests, like at 8, 9 years old. I go up and sing for the guests and do impersonations, and they would throw nickels, quarters, dimes, and then maybe sometimes it was even, a couple of dollars, and I said, wow. you know, this gives me money for the boardwalk to go on the rides.
So the reason I do comedy is because my dad went through the Holocaust.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
Isn't that funny? And
no, I don't think that's funny. No, no, no.
and and so he wasn't ever in the moment. He couldn't be. He was always in the, you know, he was still in the concentration camps on the day he died.
God. Oh my God. Yeah.
And so that made me really desperate for attention. So I'm desperately still seeking it.
Yeah, I can understand that. You know, there was an agent in New York, God rest his soul, and him and his wife, they went through the Holocaust. And his name was Einhorn. And a wonderful, wonderful man, him and his wife, but he was funny as hell. He was really funny. And I had to work a place up in the Pocono Mountains called the Mount Airy Lodge. And the main room, the showroom, was called the Crystal Room, held about maybe 1,500, 2,000 people who were guests of the hotel. So I'm supposed to be there, and it's snowing and snowing and snowing. I couldn't see out my front window, and I called up hi. I said, hi, I can't make it. And with the Jewish accent, he said, Bobby Rydell, they got 1,500 people in this crystal room. Bobby Rydell. I said, hi, I can't make it. I even called the state police. They said, don't leave your house, you know, because then I would have to get on the turnpike to go up to the Pocono Mountains from Philadelphia. Bobby Rydell, wait a second, I'll send a helicopter. I said, no, you couldn't see 2 inches in front of you. I said, no, please, hi, no helicopter. He was funny as hell. He was a great guy.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I miss my dad almost as much as I know you miss your father.
Absolutely, absolutely. My dad was my champion.
I have another thing to tell you. You had a need for organ donation, and I have a twin brother in Portland, and he was dying in a hospital of distended, cirrhosis. They didn't expect him to make it 2 more days. And somebody, he doesn't know who, came in his room and told Freddie, his name's Freddie, if you eat 3 organic lemons a day, your organs will repair themselves. And he did.
Oh my God.
And he didn't. Yeah. And his organs are fine now.
Well, why didn't somebody tell me that?
Thank you. Maybe you can spread it.
I like lemons. No, but I didn't get any lemons. No, I didn't. No lemons, no olives. I just got, thank God, I got a new liver and a new kidney, you know, but, yes. And that was all once again because of Julia, my donor.
Did you get to meet the family of the girl who passed?
I did. You know, they have a thing called the gift of life, and you have to wait at least a year before you can contact relation, you know, a mother or father of the girl, Linda, Julia, who passed away.
Yes.
And we finally did after a year, and they didn't know, you know, I was just Robert Rydell, and they didn't, you know, put 2 and 2 together. Robert Rydell, Bobby Rydell, no. And we met the mother, and she was. I was doing a show in Wilmington, Delaware, and we invited the mother and the grandfather and the whole family, Julia's whole family. And I introduced her and got a great standing ovation from the people, you know, in the audience in Wilmington. And after the show, she came back and the whole family came back, and we just hugged and cried. And I put my hand on my stomach. The mother's hand. I got her hand and put it on my stomach, and we both hugged and cried, you know. But and you know, she was such a beautiful girl too, Julia. Really beautiful girl. You know,
what'd she look like?
What she looked like? She was dark haired. She had an olive complexion. She almost looked like my first wife. She almost looked like Camille. You know, my wife had a real good olive complexion, dark hair, And her and her mother were coming back from Atlantic City. And they took a bus from Atlantic City, and when they're in Reading, Pennsylvania, they had to get onto another bus to take them to their home. Well, the mother was crossing the street, and then Julia was following her mother. As she stepped off the curb, she got hit by a car. And she went something like 30 feet in the air, came down on her head. She was immediately pronounced brain dead. And that is the only way that you can get organs. The body has to be pronounced brain dead. That's the only way that you can actually get a liver, a kidney, and so on and so forth. So, I was very, very lucky, extremely lucky. And we still keep in touch, to this day, the mom. And what can I say? I absolutely look upon it as a miracle. I mean, I'm Catholic, and I have my strong faith in God. And I really believe, that God actually made this thing happen. To the point where, being wheeled into the OR, and I told my wife, Linda, we were supposed to do a cruise in October or November. And I'm being wheeled into the OR, and I looked at my wife and I said, I'm going to make that cruise. And I go into the OR. I'm in the OR for something like 23 hours, getting a new liver and a new kidney. And I think possibly that God looked down on me and he said, you know what, Bob? I don't want you yet. I think you got a couple of more things to do. I'm going to let this one slide and keep doing what you're doing. Just keep in mind to go out there and tell everybody about organ donation. And that's what I do.
Wow. Well, you're leaving a legacy through your whole life. A legacy of beautiful music, entertaining and loving people, being in the moment, being a proud veteran, your father's legacy of being a proud veteran, and organ donating, and I mean, having two beautiful wives and making those work.
Yeah,
my hat's off to you in many ways.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Lynn. Yeah, my first wife, Camille, I mean, we were childhood sweethearts. Both born and raised in South Philadelphia. She lived around the corner from me. She was on 10th Street. I was on 11th Street. And we kept company for like 10 years. I met her when I was 15, and we dated and so on and so forth. And then things started happening for me, and God forbid, the fans out there, they didn't want to know that you had a girlfriend. Because back in their minds, they always thought, well, maybe I got a chance of marrying Bobby Rydell, Frankie Avalon, Fabian, so on and so forth, whatever. So she always had to stay in the background. And whenever she came to a show, she was introduced as a cousin, a friend of the family, And then when I turned 25, I said, okay, baby, now's the time we're gonna tie the knot. And that was back in 1969, October the 5th, 1969. And we were married for 35 years. And she was a great lady. And we had 2 marvelous children. Now I have 5 grandchildren. So everything is good. Everything is real good.
It's wonderful. I'm so glad to be able to talk to you. I feel like I'm in your living room right now with you.
Well, actually, we're in my kitchen.
I'll take it.
Okay. Oh, God.
Thank you so much for the amazing time you've spent. And God bless you and Linda and your children and grandchildren. And just, if you get to Vegas, I'm going to be at your show, and I'm coming to New York when it opens. And I want to know where.
I wonder, who the hell knows when. I was supposed to be in Vegas May 1, 2, and 3. And of course that was canceled,
Where were you going to perform?
At the South Point.
I love that place.
Yeah, the South Point Hotel, and 2 very dear friends of mine work there as well. Frankie Avalon works there, and Tony Orlando, and the Duprees work there. And so I'm really happy to be part of it, you know, because they've been friends forever. You know, I mean, Frankie Avalon and I grew up basically together. I was 10 years old when I first met Frankie. He was 12. He played trumpet, I played drums. And our friendship has been since 10 years old. I'm now 78. So that's 68 years of friendship with Avalon. Yeah, yeah.
I'm a little bit younger than you. I'm 69, and what's weird is I graduated in 69. I don't know what that means, but it means something.
Well, yeah, whatever. Maybe you should play the number, you know?
Yeah, I play the number. Play a 6 and a 9.
Yeah, there you go.
But anyway, it's so fun to talk to you and give my best to Linda. Tell her thank you for letting me have this time alone with you. It's very precious.
It's my pleasure. Thank you ever so much, Lynn. I'm so sorry we had, you know, it was such a mix-up, you know, to get onto the Zoom thing, you know, but we finally did it. It was an absolute pleasure and an honor to talk to you. Thank you, sweetheart.
Same with me. Love you.
Love
Bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Everybody's talking at the comic spot. The comic spot.